Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Zone of Interest, starring Christian Friedel and Sandra Hüller, directed by Jonathan Glazer. Now, before I get into this, I must say I didn't know much about this movie before I heard about it being nominated for the Oscars, and luckily I saw this movie twice for this review so I could see what it's all about. But here's the other thing. This movie's going to be set in German. Well, the foreign language is German, I'll say, but I'm going to say this movie's review in English because I don't speak German, so that helps you. And let's get into the movie. We get a weird score lasting for almost 5 minutes after the title of the movie is shown on screen, which is very weird in so many levels. The year is 1942, and the Haas family, led by Rudolph, played by Christian Friedel, and Hedwig, played by Sandra Hüller, are on the lake and having a picnic with their kids Klaus, Hans, and baby Annegret, as well as a couple of other girls whom I've never got their names, as Rudolph is in the war with Germany, as this movie is, like I said, set in German, and the entire movie is spoken in German, but sometimes it goes very fast to the point I couldn't follow what they were saying for half the movie, which felt like a problem for me. And this is why I don't usually go to foreign films, unless if they're nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars, like Parasite, Drive My Car, and there's going to be another one I have to review this year for Best Picture, and that is Anatomy of a Fall, which came out this past summer, but I'll get there when I get there, as this felt the slowest pace. Like, I don't know what the hell is going on at this point. Rudolph gets a surprise birthday party with his family before he goes to work for the German military, so I'm guessing he's with the Nazis. As they do say at one point in the movie Hail Hitler. Remember, this movie is set in Germany in the 1940s, so this would have been when World War II was happening at this point. And I like that aspect of a family man working for the German military, as it makes sense. We get back to the house, and Hedwig has some of her girlfriends at the house, as well as the housekeeper Bruneck, as they fold and pick up which clothes to wear while Rudolph and a few other generals are on the house, and nothing is really happening, as this is talk and talk and talk, as I was bored for half the movie, which is a shame for a Best Picture nominee, as this movie is beautifully shot and it's well made, but nothing happens for half the movie, and it bored me half the time, and it was on screen. Like, at one point I checked the time as it was going by very slowly, which is a shame. Rudolph celebrates his birthday with his commandments as his plates, which is questionable in my opinion, while that very night they eat some cake. And this plot is kind of simple, that a 5-year-old would be bored with this movie like I am at this point. We get this weird black and white sequences at times, which is a little haunting, while Rudolph reads one of the girls' stories about it, and that felt very random, to the point that this movie is freaking weird at times. The screen goes white for like a minute, and that was weird, as well, as this is freaking me out a little bit. Like, what is going on here? Hedwig and one of the kids are working on the garden, while Rudolph and the other half of the family feels some kind of bug in the water, and they get home and immediately wash themselves, and to the point it hurts the kids. And why would they go in the lake to begin with, which was a real problem from the get-go. Rudolph gets on the phone with his commanding officer saying he has to relocate at a different location, and tells Hedwig while at a party at their house, which will come a little later in the film, as G.B.M.H, I don't know if I'm saying that right, please forgive me, comes for a visit, as well as some Jewish people, which sounds horrible coming from me, but keep in mind, the movie said it, not me. I'm not trying to be disrespectful in this show, as Hedwig shows Inge Brigitte around the garden and sits down and talk with each other, and we get a nice shots of flowers, and the screen randomly turns red and quiets down. It makes a loud noise from the ground, which is very weird and random at the same time. We get to the party scene I brought up briefly, while with Rudolph saying to Hedwig he has to move to Orienburg, and Hedwig refuses, and they want to live in their home, and Rudolph once walks to the lake alone, and eventually Hedwig follows him there, and she discusses with him they're not moving with him to Orienburg, as they won't go get a divorce, but this is while the war is going on, and these are beautifully shot scenes, and that's when I checked the time at one point in the film, wondering how long has this film been going on, as I'm almost an hour into the movie, which amazed me, because this movie is slowly paced. Like, I might fall asleep during it, but thank God I didn't at this point. Rudolph announces that to his family, he'll be gone for a while he goes to work at the German military base. Not that they're trying to get divorced, but until the war is over. And at this point, I'm very disappointed in the fact this was nominated for Best Picture, which I didn't believe it will win. I don't believe it'll win it, but it will win Best International Film at the Oscars. I'll give it that. We get the haunting image of being in black and white once again while reading Hansel and Gretel, and this sequence felt endless as a girl rides her bike in the forest, which is dangerous because you wouldn't know what wild animals you could approach, like lions, tigers, bears, mountain lions, or coyotes, for that matter, so that kind of bothered me. We get someone playing the piano as I was following the words to the song, which didn't feel all that bad, as the kids go to school, and if I were to guess correctly, and suddenly Sophie goes missing for reasons I don't fully understand, as she writes a note about her resignation, and do I care, to be honest? Not really, as I don't know her well enough. One of the kids hears something being attacked on the other side of the wall next to their house, as does a man whom I don't know who in the hell that is supposed to be, as we get into the area where Rudolph is, as he's petting a doggy, and quite a hell of a lot of German soldiers go into meeting together and say they're going to invade to find Jewish people in Hungary. And some haunting music comes in as he gets promoted to what Hans Landa was in Quentin Tarantino's *Inglourious Bastards. While Claus traps Hans in the garden room. And what was the point of that scene with the kids? Other than that, Rudolph being promoted is a fine scene in my opinion, but the one with the kids was absolutely pointless. Rudolph gets to another location thanks to his commanding officer, and he checks with the doctor and calls Hedwig to tell her the big news about going to a country they talked about at one point earlier in the film. And he goes to a party, and he was bored with it, to the point he called his wife, saying how bored he was at the party, as he was thinking during it. And he's about to go home soon, and he walks downstairs thinking someone might have poisoned him. And without explanation, he gets out of it alive, as we see it in present day. And people are cleaning up the rooms that took place in the movie for a few minutes, and the movie is over, and the climax felt very disappointing, as I was disappointed in the movie because it has no freaking ending whatsoever, and that annoyed the living hell out of me. If we get to credits 3 minutes after it was supposed to be over and done with. Now, before I get into my reading, I must say, I have reviewed Poor Things, I have reviewed Barbie, I have reviewed Maestro, I have reviewed Oppenheimer, and there was one more I think I reviewed before. I'm trying to remember what it is. I'll get back to you. Killers of the Flower Moon was the one I forgot to bring up. Now it's time for my rating. I'll give this movie a 4.9 out of 10. I can't believe this is nominated for Best Picture, as it was slowly paced to the point I had no idea what the hell was happening for half the movie, and when they talk so fast, I can't follow what they're saying, which felt like a problem with foreign films in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, the movie is beautifully shot, as it is well made, and the acting is good in this movie, but the plot was kind of simple. Not that it's a bad thing, but a 5-year-old could be bored with this movie. Like, I was for half of it, and it felt like nothing was really happening for half of it either. Other than how well shot the movie is, I was unfortunately disappointed in this movie, as it was boring as hell, and this is the mildest non-recommendation, and hopefully it doesn't win Best Picture of the Year, but it will probably win Best International Feature Film, which is nominated for that. But at the end of the day, it was absolutely weirdly scored, as this movie was weird. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with American Fiction. And until we get there, and the Oscar goes to...